We kind of want to talk on something. So we are halfway through the year, and a lot of us, I'm speaking to myself really, we had New Year's resolutions. Now we're halfway through the year. I know we're in a pandemic. We're in several pandemics. Well, two mainly. We've got COVID and we've got racism.
Oh my! Wow.
Those are the two pandemics that we're dealing with right now.
Two critical.
The two critical ones, yeah?
One has been around much
longer than the other one, and we're still fighting, but that's for a podcast for another day, guys. So New Year's resolution, what gone with that? How far's yours? Have you done anything? Did you set resolutions? Like, what happened?
Funnily enough, I felt like this year my resolutions were not as clear. And that's the first time I really was weary about having a plan for the first time this year. And there's certain things I wanted to do, definitely, in fact, there were some things that I did, I felt like there were things I wanted to do and I had started to work on before the pandemic, but essentially pandemic happened. So I feel like I was not as concrete this year, funnily enough. And so it was a lot. I was kind of looking at this year like, what's going to happen this year? This was not prophetic insight. I hope it wasn't laziness, but it was just a case of I was just not as firm this year in terms of things, but there were things that I was working on. And what's the second question?
Do you not have the notes?
Right.
So what's happened? Did you find, have you done any of your, because you said they weren't concrete, so were there no resolutions at all?
Oh, I see. So I felt like once the pandemic, because I was working quite exhaustively through December into January, February, I felt like this year it was definitely a time of emotional resolutions. Mm-hmm. And so I think God really wants to do a massive healing excavation work in me. I've never an emotional journey. This doesn't mean crying hysterically one day. It's about really dissecting who you are emotionally. Where am I? What am I dealing with? Who, what, why, where, when, and asking those critical questions and getting to know yourself in growth. So this is something that I never had time for. I was just like, listen, let's get on with it. I was just action. But I definitely felt like I really had to come into knowing myself. So I feel like this year actually, and I think the journey started last year, but I really went on this whole journey of emotional resolutions and just growing healthier emotionally. And actually, funny enough, this has actually been one of the most productive and most it's been the most productive resolution that I've seen come out. Like the benefits and the outcomes have been amazing. I'm like, whoa, I've actually changed. So I think when you're better internally, you're able to do things properly externally. So I think God took me way back. He said, listen, we want to do all these things, but let's deal with you first. So I think it was God's resolutions, and I had to just carry on, just jump on the bandwagon.
I feel like that's the most churchy thing I've heard you say all week.
Oh dear. What have I been saying all week?
No, but I hear you. That's so, because I've never really heard about I never really thought of resolutions as something that can also be emotional, if that makes any sense. In my head, it's always just been your resolution has to provide a tangible outcome. Do you know what I mean? So this year I'm going to buy a car. This year I'm going to buy a house. This year I'm going to earn more money. And those are very much the standard yeah, that's what you hear all the time when people say they want to do resolutions. I didn't have resolutions at the beginning of this year because I kept failing at them. So I just said, whatever happens, happens.
And so we can conclude that Adela is single-handedly responsible for this pandemic. Whatever happens, this attitude, that's COVID-19.
Listen, I said, whatever happens this year, happens this year.
Yeah.
I just wasn't. I don't know how to explain it. I think that last year was such a heavy year, and coming into this year, I wanted lightness and I wanted to just feel. Do you know what I mean? Like there's space to go in whatever direction that I need to go into without having to think too hard about it. And I feel like that's fine and that's okay. But now I'm at the halfway point in the year and I'm just like, okay, I've literally spent about 3.5 months in my house watching Netflix, watching YouTube, on the Twitter, and on the gram. That's all I've done. So it's kind of that thing of we're halfway through the year. I know that a lot of people picked up on it, and I know that 2020 there's this whole thing of 2020 being the year of vision, 2020 sight. I really didn't like that because I was like,
why do you think it was cliche? Is that why?
I said,
you're like,
I said, what auntie? I'm surprised.
My gosh.
I said, what WhatsApp message did you guys get this from now?
No, it's not a trap, but it is literally you're gonna cross that road. You can't help it. You can't help saying 2020, 2020 vision,
2020 vision.
Didn't it come to your mind?
No.
Yeah.
Fam, when I said 2020 was just supposed to be another year.
Oh no. Well, at least the whole world planned for you.
2020 was just supposed to be a very calm year. If we want to talk about resolution, that was my resolution. To just, even though I didn't have a resolution, it was just to kind of go with the flow and see what is in store, see what God has planned, and just kind of allow myself to actually do whatever I'm supposed to do without a restriction of I can't do it because I've got this plan, or I can't get there because I've got that plan, if that makes any sense. I can see you're burning to say something. Come on.
No. I'm listening.
But yeah, it's very, very kind of important. And I think that in this lockdown season and in this time, it's very, very easy to become, I don't know how to say it. Well, I do know how to say it. It's very, very easy to become so down and to just think that, well, if you look at the world and if you look what's going on, is there any point of having any plans? Is there any point of having a goal or doing anything like that? I know that on Twitter and on Instagram, there was this thing going around about the fact that if you come out of lockdown and you've not done anything, then you were never serious to begin with. And then you had the people who were countering that. People are countering that, and people are just like, actually, if you survive this lockdown, then you've done a great thing. So it's one of them things where it's like, should we, do we not? Is it important to have vision? Should we have, it's halfway through the year and I've decided for myself, personally speaking, this is not a mandate for the rest of the world or for anybody else listening, but as for Anella and her house, I've got certain plans that I'm now putting into place that I want to see put in to like come to fruition. And it doesn't really matter that it's halfway through the year, I don't think. It really, really doesn't matter that it's halfway through the year. I don't think that we need to wait until the 1st of January to have specific vision or to have set goals or to do whatever. I think that's very much a mindset and a mentality that for some reason we have that, I'll wait till January the 1st to really kind of set a goal or really to start this thing or whatever the case may be.
That start on Monday. Monday.
Listen. Listen. Listen, I've been speaking to you about the step challenge, right? And every time I had to actually start it on Thursday because I said,
There we go.
if I wait for Monday, I will never do this challenge.
Monday will say we're not accepting you. Sorry, you ever to say sorry, our quota is full.
By the time Monday comes around and you realize that it's halfway through the day, you're like, okay, cool, I'll start next Monday. That's me that's me anyways.
Yeah.
But I think it's that kind of mentality. So it's just that thing of, we're halfway through the year. Have you made any plans? Have you, this is for you, Lizzie. This is not rhetorical. Have you made any plans?
Yeah, I think you raise a really good point, actually. I think now that we're in the middle of the year, I think we have kind of, for many people, the tone has been set. We kind of know what kind of year we're in, unless something crazy happens again. And I guess we're now used to something. If something crazy happens again, mind blown. But there are certain things we do understand, that we're in a climate where you're working from home, or there's a certain precedent that's been set by the past 4 or 5 months. So I think for me personally, it's actually, I'm still going through with building internally. I think because I can see the fruit of that. And it's things like this now that we're starting, and I'm like, okay, running with that. I've also got like work plans, career, things like that. Considering we're in this atmosphere, considering we're in this climate, I can now re-strategize, like goals that I have. But I think for me, I think there's a lot more internal intentionality, and I've got much more internal focus, because we're not going to be in lockdown forever. And I think the pressure it depends. Everyone's in different places. For me, I knew that I'm this constant. I knew I needed to sit down and actually maybe not bring out anything tangible from lockdown, maybe within the next 4 or 5 months. We'll see what God says, and actually build internally. So I think there's going to be a lot more internal intentionality. But there are seeing the way that like lockdown is happening, I think, yeah, there are the things that I am working on goal in terms of like, my skill sets and things like that, being intentional around those areas. And so, yeah, I think skill wise, come on, girl, upskill.
Do you want to explain what exactly this means? Those hand signals?
My upskilling. Hand. What about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got plans. I think that one of the main reasons why, as well as the fact that I just wanted everything to be flowy and kind of go with whatever's happening, whatever God wanted to do this year, in terms of me, is the fact that I'm turning 30 soon.
Come on, girl.
So I just wanted to have one more year of carefreeness, if that makes any sense. I don't know why, but
you feel like you can't have that now?
I feel like once I turn 30, I don't know, I feel like the aunties will just gather me in a corner and say, okay, it's enough.
Your time has come.
Your time has come. No more messing about. What are you doing? None of that.
For every event, a jollof is on your head. You provide, my sister, you provide.
Listen, I will now move up in the ranks. I won't just be serving the food. I'll be the one coordinating. That's what 30 is.
I said you'll be bringing the cooler. I don't know why you haven't claimed that bit. You are responsible for meat and jollof.
I can't cook in bulk, so I don't want to poison everybody.
However you want to do it, whether you want to outsource or insource, that's up to you. There's a cooler with your name on it. There's a cooler.
I'll be the responsible one for it, yeah?
That's it.
But yeah, I thought that. But of lately, this period has been so Hmm. It's been interesting
Okay, go
because
on.
you know what's going on in the world, but I keep saying this over and over again that we're so kind of privileged and so fortunate to be able to, a lot of us be able to work from home. Um, we kind of live in a society where, yes, we're about to go into a recession, but it's not it, and it will affect people. But I feel like for the majority of us, we will survive. Do you know what I mean? It's still a very privileged position to be in, unlike people who have completely lost their jobs. They don't have any, do you know what I mean? I always look at the position and I always say, okay, the position that we're in for the time that we're in, extremely fortunate, and I thank God. I really, really do thank God for that, and I don't take it for granted at all. So with that being said, I feel like this season has been so weird because everything, like I said, has been happening, but at the same time I've been able to stay at home, and in my staying at home, I've been able to really kind of, not even really kind of, I've been able to just draw closer to God in a way that I've never done before. And because I've been able to do that, he's been showing me certain things, and he's been confirming certain things to me, especially about the year that I'm about to enter into,
Oh
and
no,
kind of just saying, and
that's Lord. Sorry. Carry on.
are you okay? And but even though he's been talking to me about that kind of, about what he's about to do and all this kind of stuff and the promises, it's a thing of, okay, but there's still some things that I need done. Do you know what I mean? Because before,
Intangibly.
tangibly, and also just within myself, in terms of the fact that I've probably had two breakdowns over this whole period, that's small for me. Do you know what I mean?
Two within the pandemic period.
Within the pandemic, I think I've only had like two really kind of where I've just sat down and I've just like been, I think I've only had that. And for me, that's an improvement. Do you know what I mean? That's a major improvement. And it sounds really silly, but it's just little things like that. Do you know what I mean? He's kind of, I think it's exactly what you said. He's working on the inside and preparing us for what's going to happen, because we're not going to be in lockdown forever. We will not be in lockdown forever. I don't care what anybody has declared over our nation. We will not be in lockdown forever.
In the name of Jesus.
Amen.
And
It's just not a thing.
the British people have been taking the law into their own heads anyway. So
I mean,
don't worry.
can we
That was just
do
a
we
side.
can we really talk about that? Are we in position to speak on that matter?
As I was saying it, as you listen, as you were so correctly saying, the Lord is doing an intangible work, and He
Yeah.
curtailed. Carry on. Over to you.
So it's a thing of, yes, I do have some goals that I've set, and I have got some things that I am planning to do, and there's some things that I started, and God's been showing me, you have to be careful when you start something and you just stop it abruptly. You're not, do you know what I mean? It's a pattern. A lot of us
Wow.
can look over our lives and see that kind of
So
thing. You
good.
start something at the beginning of the year and you don't finish it. Why? Why? That's not what is supposed to happen. If you look at instances in the Bible, and if you look at examples in the Bible, if you think about the Tower of Babel, they started a job and they had to stop it, but that was because God himself put a stop to it. Now there are lots of times when they were rebuilding the wall, when Nehemiah was um rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, and there were people around that were saying they were going to do whatever, and Nehemiah was like, no, we have to persist, we have to do this is what we have to do. And God was kind of just showing me these examples where it's like, you start something and you don't stop it. Why? Did I tell you to stop?
Wow.
Like, seriously, why have you stopped? So it's not even like I've got
So
new
good.
goals. It's just I'm picking up the goals that I should have finished a long time ago.
Yeah, so
Do you
good.
know what I mean? We have to be so very, very careful that we don't sometimes I always think about Habakkuk 2 verse 2, where it says that write the vision, make it clear, so that he who sees it may run with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes the vision is so clear and it is there, but we're not running with it. And I feel like God's just calling us to a higher standard, a higher plane. And a lot of us have got places that we need to be, and there are spirits. Oh, I'm Jamaican, so this word, Lizzie, do you want to say it for me?
Spheres. Is it spheres?
That's the one of influence that we need to reach.
What are you going to say? Just out of interest.
No, it's okay. It's all right. You don't want to know. Listen, the paddle was really about to come out then, yeah. But there are these areas of influence that we are supposed to be taking space in, that we're not taking space in there because we started and we stopped.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of thing. You have the vision, it's plain as day. You need to run with it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about in terms of not so New Year's resolutions, because these are things that, for me personally, these are things that God has said to do from time ago, and I've just been sitting on my hands.
Yeah. I definitely think that it's really analyzing, am I waiting on God or am I just procrastinating, kind of thing. Because I feel like there's seasons in your life where you actually do have to wait, where you are waiting to get clarity, where you are waiting for the Lord to do a work on you. And there's other times where you have to step out in faith and you're doing what God has said, you know, like how God said to Abraham, you're going to have to get up and go to a land which you do not know. And some of us we want the land to come to us. We don't even want to move. You know what I mean? And so that journey or that acquisition or that establishing, that building of the things that God has put on our hearts to do, what does ready look like? You know what I mean? Sometimes we discredit ourselves. Oh, I'm not ready. And really, it's I think really it's amazing what you've said in terms of really having that kind of conversation with God. And you're so right, looking at the pattern, because I feel like I've been in that place as well, looking at the pattern of, am I finishing the things that, and you eventually you will see if in the smallest things, you know, you have you finished that book? Did you finish writing down that thing that you were meant to finish writing down? Did you? And so you have to really come against that incompletion of the enemy. And it's amazing what you said about Nehemiah. The whole thing was, I'm here, you know, Sanballat and Tobias, I'm here to ensure that you do an incomplete job. You started, and I'm here for the incompleteness. And so I love John chapter 17, where Jesus says, I have completed the work that you gave me to do. And Jesus said that so that I believe strongly. I always say it. Jesus said that, and by his grace, we can also say that. Jesus said it so that I can say it too, that I can complete the work that he gave me to do. So amazing. I really love that.
So we've got work to do, fam.
I said, apparently.
There's work to be done. But yeah, I mean, I feel like what more is there to say other than get up and do what you gotta do?
I think essentially, you know, like I think what we've seen here is that it's something needs to be done, whether it's internally or externally. Really having that conversation with what is meant to be happening, what is meant to be happening, and what should I be putting my hands to do right now. And it's not for people. That's why we've been talking about external and internal things. It's about doing what God has called you to do in a season. So yeah, I think it's so true. Something should be happening in lockdown. The fact that we've had 3 to 4 months, no one should leave the same. And truthfully, even though at first I was a bit apprehensive of all those, like, if you haven't brought anything to the table, I was a bit like, okay, well, I'm not putting that pressure on myself. But truthfully, you know, the Bible says redeeming the time because the days are evil. You know, redeem your time, take your time. You know, that's why the Bible says also teach us to number our days. You know, so there's a thing about time and being a steward of time, and something must be seen for the time that you've had. So,
and it's just like you said, understanding that it's not necessarily doesn't necessarily have to be such a tangible thing, because there's work that needs to be happening on the inside. Do you know what I mean? There's a strengthening. Some people, your spirit man needs to be strengthened. That's what it is. Your mentality needs to be strengthened. Do you know what I mean? So it's not being pressured to think that by the end of lockdown I have to have 14 streams of income that are now worth 4.5 million pounds. Do you know what I mean? It's building up that wealth within yourself that will then be manifested physically. So don't feel like you have to do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just, it's exactly what you said. Just see what God wants you to do. Do you know what I mean?
And for some, maybe God is telling you, well, it's time that you did those 14 streams.
No, 100%. 100%. I claim it. I claim it. I claim it.
That sounds familiar. That wouldn't be me.
I claim it. That 4.5 million a year, I claim it. Come on.
Lord, now please.
But it's right now, right here, Jesus. We are waiting on you. So